Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Friday, May the 6th, 2016, and I'm very honored and have the great pleasure of welcoming back to the show Mr. Wade Hodges, who is with Nevada Exploration, and they are operating in 5 different locations in north central Nevada. Wade, it looks like your stock has gained somewhere around 20% in the last 3 months, and probably like the other mining stocks, seems poised to go higher. Welcome to the show, and how are you today, sir?
I am great, Roy, and thanks for having me. Yes, it is kind of nice to see that maybe some of the worst aspects of this perfect storm are behind us, and we're getting a bit of direction from the market. It's like the wind begins to hit the sails, and so we want to use this opportunity with increased interest, renewed interest in gold, to see if we can explain our story to a larger audience. And I think that's what's going on, and why the increase in the share price is the beginning of seeing the effects of doing just that.
It seems like things are moving in the direction that we want it to move in, which is the positive. It's a nice change of pace.
Absolutely, and I think it's a positive theme everywhere. I mean, a lot of my, of course, here in Nevada, we spend a lot of time with our competitors as well, talking and wringing our hands over the future and what to do, and aware of the same sorts of confusing events and uncertainties I think a lot of investors are. But I've always tried to stay focused on less wringing of hands, but specifically positive things that I can do. And so I step back and stay focused on the rocks.
There you go.
If you're interested in gold, fundamentally, the most fundamental aspect of gold is the part that's involved in exploration and discovery.
Right.
And if that is not functioning well, then you're not going to be having much of a business of development and production.
Well, and speaking of discovery, I mean, the gold discovery technique that you have developed has the potential to be a true game changer in mining exploration. And we went over a lot of that in the last conversation that you and I had. And what is the latest and greatest in what's happening on the ground out there, Wade? What are you finding in the rocks? What are they telling you?
Well, yeah, for me, the observation of the gold in groundwater and following those clues can lead to potentially new discoveries is definitely a paradigm shift. It's something that attracted my attention early on, and it's stayed focused on it. And so what we're doing is not worried about other paradigm shifts as much as continuing to focus on improving that process. Because as other people come on board with the concept and start to use it as an exploration tool, concern is that, we'll start to face more competition and so on, which is fine. Not afraid of that at all. I welcome it. But what we want to do is be continually at the head, the leading edge of that. And so we spend a lot of time to continue to improve our process. Gold and groundwater chemistry is wonderful, but there's still a lot of things that can be done to improve it. For example, currently we're limited to taking one sample per setup, if you will, with our equipment. And it's frustrating as we pound down into the soil and extract a gold and groundwater sample. We'd like to be able to extract multiple samples at different depths, faster, cheaper. We also like to be able to sample the alluvium and then even bedrock, where it's in many places it's shallow enough to get. And so that's got our thinking process moving forward to developing additional new tools that we'll soon be able to talk more about. I think that bode very well then for the future.
That sounds
on
great.
that edge.
That sounds really good, and hopefully we'll be able to get you back on so you can expand on these new techniques and how they're working out. It sounds pretty cool. I mean, because the technique that you developed is really great, and I would highly encourage everyone to go back and listen to our previous conversation, because Wade goes into great detail about how it works and what he's doing, and And mining has been under a lot of stress for the past 5 years, as you well know. And a great many mines are either slowing down or shutting down completely. And now that the precious metals are finally catching a bid, and mining operations should be seeing some much needed new cash flow, how do you see the remainder of 2016 playing out in regards to the mining and resource sector?
Well, what you say about mines being under pressure is certainly true, and it's part of the fundamental structure of the business of mining. It takes time to react to market conditions. You can't suddenly build an entire processing facility or an extension to it in the time frame that the markets are changing. So it's extremely difficult for a mine which cannot control the ultimate price of its product. It does not get, for example, to pass along cost to its customers. It has to react to, what is the price that people are willing to pay for what it produces. And so mining is a very intensive, high intensity business, a lot of fixed costs, high energy costs. So it's very difficult. And there's no wonder that miners are under a lot of pressure. And to me, personally, it's not a part of the business that I enjoy being involved in, which of course is why I focused on the exploration side of the game. For me, the thrill, the reason to be involved and invested in a gold story is the thrill of discovery, the Eureka, I found it moment is what people respond to, not the, next quarter we're going to have a little increase in production, and by the way, we've got an overrun in costs, and the regulators are messing with us again, and that kind of a story. They want to know that you're out there, you're looking, you're understanding, you're pushing back, advancing our understanding of how Mother Nature works to good effect. And look, here's something brand new that's come into the world, and now you pass it on to those that want to develop and produce because they need, the security, the certainty that's provided by metrics, by a constant, steady march to production. And I appreciate that. We certainly need it. I mean, it wouldn't be any good to make a discovery and not be able to have a way to produce it. But for me, my product is a new discovery, and there's a plenty demand for that. There's a huge demand. I don't have to worry about a marketing department and trying to convince people to come take the gold deposit that we find and put it into production. The market will take care of that.
Yes,
so for the future, I think that this entire interest in gold, because investors are, they're not stupid. They're very smart people. And a lot of times my peers lament that we can't, the investors don't understand, they're rigid, they're resistant to new ideas, and it's just not the case. Hardworking, good people doing their best to understand all this stuff, and that's their part of the job, is to compare my story with the stories of others, and then make a decision on where to best, take a chance, take a small strategic bet, add a company like NGE to its portfolio, because what we'll do is expose you to the possibilities of new and innovative technologies that with little success can really take off.
Yeah, and are you moving around to all of these different locations, Wade, and extracting the information, listening to the rocks and listening to the water, and seeing what's going on?
Yes, each of our projects is, of course, in a different stage. Just like in any process where you're building a house or a mill, if you're a mine, you go through different stages. You build the foundation, the walls, the roofs, and so on. Well, in exploration, there's a whole set of metrics as well, and they're not really well explained or talked about. And so each of our projects is at a different stage of exploration, okay, and leading to that, what we hope is a discovery. And so, yes, we move around. We have 5 projects right now, but also we've got a number of places that are already in our sites. In other words, the work has already been done without having to actually add to our costs of locating ground and paying fees to the government. It allows us to know where to go by using this water chemistry tool to look beneath the ground cover, where there's really very little other clues, other reason to be interested. And so it allows us an opportunity to to basically have an inventory of projects that don't have a lot of holding cost. And so, yes, we move around between these things. And right now, we've just acquired another tool to our toolkit that allows us to much more quickly process and reduce all of the various disparate data sets that we have available to us: geophysics, soil samples, water samples, of course, different geological trends that can be projected underneath the gravel cover. And it's a tool that's been a long time in coming. It's a piece of software, basically, that really takes a lot of the labor and allows a much clearer presentation of visually what it is that I'm talking about. So in the future, I can give out to potential investors the hope that they're not going to have to listen to Wade's word salad to explain what it is he thinks he sees, but they can just be treated to a little movie that explains, oh, I got it. That's simple. Why didn't you just say that?
Which is what we're all looking for. I mean, I agree that the investors they're not given the credit that they should be. But at the end of the day, they still want something that's simple and easy to read, and it gives them the information that they're looking for. I mean,
well, and I don't fault them at all for that. That's their job. That's what they should do. They have every right to expect that from every one of the companies that they invest in. They're the ones that hold their feet to the fire. And if we're not doing the job the way they want, then they need to, pick up the phone, give us a call. There's plenty of ways to me, criticism is a breakfast of champions. There is no bad feelings associated with, hey, this doesn't make any sense. I don't understand that. It's a reason to focus and to get even clearer on what it is, because we're all about trying to get better at this, not just keep doing the same old things and expect different results. And I can totally appreciate I can get too focused in my own little world. And so investors are the ones that jerk the chain, that keep feet grounded to reality. So guys like me don't just lift off the planet and into the ether. Keep sort of grounded. So
yeah, we don't need you to do that. I want to change gears for just a moment, Wade, if you don't mind. Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders are they're exposing the anger and the frustration that the American populace has been under thumb for the past 30 to 40 years, maybe even longer. And now all of a sudden you see this groundswell of people who have been ignored, who've been marginalized, and who have actually been the producers and the people that have been bringing everything to the table, literally bringing it to the table. And now that Trump and Sanders both have given them a voice, they feel empowered. And
yeah, totally. It's amazing that everybody wants change. We all are on the same page and know that what is going on we don't like. And the thing that you don't like about it is you don't like to be told what to do.
Exactly.
I don't care if you're a Bernie Sanders or a Trump supporter. You just want to be able to have enough space to be able to live your own life and experience it at your own pace.
As a sovereign human being.
We're all different.
I mean, exactly. Don't tell me how to live or what to live or who to live with or who I'm supposed to love or not love and care about and not care about. I don't need somebody telling me these things. I am perfectly capable of doing it myself.
and because there are a lot of people, and we do live close together, we can't just move over the mountain range and say to hell with it all. You do need some sort of structure and rules that you can agree on, to allow that kind of diversity to exist, for sure. And, America's America because it did a heck of a job of being able to come up with a good set of rules to begin with.
Exactly.
And nothing has really changed. They were built around understanding human nature for the most part and how it tends to work. And if you want to change the rules, there's ways to do it. Already in the rules.
The rules. They're built in. Imagine that.
You have to be better at making arguments, not just go political to try to, force your vision of the future onto people. Because as soon as you do that, you violate one of the rules, which is I want to be left alone to experience my own world
Exactly.
at my own pace. And if you're true, Mr. Whoever, if it's true that what you're saying is correct, then you don't believe that I'll eventually figure that out on my own. Give me the opportunity to learn on my own. I work with a lot of dogs and horses, animals, and most of them just need to be able to be put in a position to where they can make choices, right or wrong. And what you want to do is simply reward, positively reinforce the right choices. And then you want to weaken the wrong choices. But it's not perfect. You cannot chart a perfect path. People coming and going in this world, being born and then growing old, and you're going to have to live with a certain amount of chaos, randomness, and uncertainty.
What do you think about? I mean, I don't know if you're familiar or not, or know that Trump actually a few years ago cut a deal with APMEX, the largest online bullion dealer, and he signed a lease with them, a 30-year lease, and the deposit for that property was gold. And he vowed at that time, I don't know if he has or not, but this was a very public display. And at the time he said, that the dollar was in a lot of trouble and our economy was in a lot of trouble. And he believed in gold, and that gold has been around forever. And he liked gold. And I mean, how do you? And he's also vowed to audit the Fed. And,
well, if you've got a choice between two processes. One is a process controlled or trying to be controlled by a bunch of incomplete, imperfect, fallible human beings. No matter how smart, they can't predict the future.
Right.
Okay. Or a process that is more iterative, takes cues from actual information and data. Everybody is able to weigh in with their own opinions, points of view, and do it without emotion. That's what the market does. Okay, and that's when you put a thing like gold as the basis of value, you're also saying that all the other abstract aspects of society that go into producing an ounce of gold, the ability to find it, the geophysics involved, the geochemistry, if you will, the processing facilities, the land use permits, the environmental constraints, the ownership rights, and so on, all have to be functioning to get that ounce of gold. And so if that ounce of gold is, and you want to simplify it, there it is. That value, that coin is worth X. And it's going to be a function of, is the rest of the society working well? When it's not, then you're going to see it in the price of gold. When it is, you're going to see it in the price of gold. And so it's a perfect underpinning, I think, to help ground all of our airy aspirations of how we'd like things to be. And I think gold is a very important part of that. If it's not gold, it has to be something else that is, rooted in that kind of reality rather than make-believe charts and, negative interest rate concepts and, so on.
Well, negative interest rate concepts that's the long version of stealing wealth from the citizens.
Of course. Imagine a scenario where it's no way, Mr. Hodges, there's no point in saving. You don't need to save. Why do you need to save? Don't worry about it.
Why do you need to save? You should spend.
Yeah, we have a cashless economy. We've got rid of cash. We finally got rid of it. So now everything is in your bank, electronically filed, controlled. There's all these positive, even the criminals have to pay taxes and so on, and we're all sharing, it's equal, it's great. Except that, what if I don't want to spend my money on that thing that you're telling me I have to spend it on? My choices are limited. I have to spend it on things you want me to spend. Suppose I want to save it because it makes me feel good. No, that's not allowed. You're not doing your part. And we're going to tax you by increasing the negative into the fees for you having your money sitting around doing nothing. And then if it gets overheated, then we're going to charge you for spending your money. And that's how we'll control and be happy going off into the future.
Yes.
And just,
that's how they the people that control the money. That's how they will be happy.
Yeah, of course, because then they get to, do everything they want to do. It's phony. People spend money spending time playing. They're not really spending it learning how Mother Nature works and being amazed in that process and extracting an incredible emotional high from learning something brand new about the universe. It's terrible.
So what I asked you a moment ago, as far as what's new and what's the latest and greatest and what's happening on the ground. Is there one mine or one of these operations that is more advanced? I mean, you said that they were at different stages. Are you getting closer? Are the clues getting tighter to say, yeah, we're ready to move to the next level? And would you produce with this technique that you use? Would you still produce a 43101 report, or how does that actually work?
Well, yes. What we're focused on, of course, the next level is to actually drive a drill rig out onto one of these blind targets and drill holes through the gravels down into the bedrock. What everybody wants is not gold in groundwater, but they want to see gold in bedrock. And then the next thing they're going to want to see is a lot of gold in bedrock. And so that's the wall of worry that we move up. And no one is particularly interested in all of the little details that go into it. And so that's what we're moving towards, is being able to develop the drill target in such a way that people can visualize it and feel comfortable with being able to connect the dots. Now, I'm not thinking that everybody is going to, buy into that, but all we need is a few percent of people that are able to connect the dots to anticipate, the next stage is, man, the evidence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is compelling enough to suggest that, by golly, there could well be a major multi-million ounce gold deposit that is just about ready to be discovered. And so the trick is to try to educate people with the best information we can and to not hide it. What I'm alluding to here is the ability to actually have the real data that shows things in scale, in space, and context, that allows a little bit better sharpening of the pencil, better analysis. And so the goal in all these cases is to move to a drilling stage, and that is, I think, where we'll be 6 months to a year. People should be looking for exactly that, announcements that we are, in fact, moving out to drill test some of these targets. Now, with that, of course, and that's what people need to understand, it's a trade-off. The sooner we go out and drill one of those targets and come back with gold in bedrock, the sooner the rest of the market will have seen the proof of concept, if you will, that they're all, wanting. With success here, the world will change in how people view gold. Peak gold production may not have actually happened. It may be that what we've come up against is a limit of existing exploration technology. And if we push that back, we suddenly have the ability to find even more gold. And so whoever has that ability, that technology, and has used it correctly to identify the number of new places, I think you can make the statement that they're going to be able to be at the head of that curve.
Well, it's very interesting that you say that we may not have reached peak gold, which would infer that some people are saying that we have reached peak gold.
Peak gold is more related to the economics associated with the extraction and then the ability to find it. Now, there used to be people who had predicted peak oil. The world oil production had peaked, and yet we've got more oil than we know what to do with now. It's almost as if exploration got very, very good in a similar vein, figured out how to do a better job of finding more oil, and then did it. That coupled with improvements in the actual extraction process, because in effect, in gold, if you increase your understanding of the metallurgy, so you're able to extract lower grades of gold, you're in effect making discoveries. You're finding additional resources that you can now mine economically.
The closer you get to the source, the denser the concentration of structure that you're looking for as far as the chemical clues.
Well, it's definitely true that there's a dispersion halo, we call it, when gold is going to be higher, more concentration in the groundwater closer to its source. And as it moves away from the source, it decreases. Now, it decreases because that water carrying the gold and then the other trace metals that it's picked up at the source are being absorbed or removed from the groundwater. They don't want to be just bouncing around in groundwater. They're not very soluble, meaning they don't like to go into solution. Whenever that water containing an atom of gold, say, bounces up against a clay particle in the dirt, that clay particle will take the gold out of the groundwater, out of solution. Is this one simple way of looking at it. And so the farther that water travels, the cleaner it becomes.
I've been following very closely the mining industry and looking at data from last year as far as production numbers and different aspects surrounding silver production in particular and gold production as well. And it seems like that some of these miners were either high grading or just digging furiously as much product out of the ground because of the pricing, and that's been going on for several years now. When you said that we may not have reached peak gold, that it was like, okay, with everything that's been happening the past 5 years, and if you're within a year's time of potentially large discovery, I would think that would have an overall impact for all of the miners as far as...
Well, absolutely. What you just said sparked 3 separate thoughts in my head, and I'm trying to sort through the best way to proceed. It's common knowledge that as the price of a metal falls, people tend to try to you have to go to the higher grade parts of the deposit. And that's one of the negative consequences of a volatile gold price. And it's how miners in the business of production try to react and deal with the variability. And the fastest thing they can do is go to the highest grade parts of their pit, which may not make the most economic sense in the long term. That as you mine physically, you get the high grade out, you leave then the low grade in a position where you can't get to it because of the physics involved. And so it's a very detrimental aspect. Now, it also means that there's a lot of low grade, which gives rise to the comment that the best place to find gold is to go where you've already found it. And that's true. You can always go back to any gold mining operation, and there's a lot of places that you can go back and get hand samples, small volumes of rock that have ounces per ton in it. Present this to the market, create a website, talk about the potential. But the reality is that if the economics aren't just right, and it's very hard to predict when that'll be, to be in a position to take advantage of it as a miner, to be able to actually extract value out of that. And so I'd rather stay away from those kind of places, those districts that have been hammered without finding anything, and see if we can't get out away and look for places where it hasn't been found. And there is no reason to believe that there isn't as much gold that has already been found in Nevada, still sitting there to be found. And it's not necessarily just deeper underneath existing mines. There's a lot of a mindset that says, there's more gold, but you got to drill deeper and it's going to cost more to find it and so on. Well, that totally ignores the fact that in Nevada, only 40% of the rock that's produced, all the gold production in the state, which makes Nevada rank among the top in number of ounces produced per area in the world. All of that gold has come out of only 40% of the exposed rocks. And that means 60% of the state is covered by sand and gravel. And no one can see beneath the sand and gravel. And so you have to have new technologies, new techniques to look at. Now, geophysics, there's a lot of things that have been tried, but that's pretty well found what can be found underneath gravel covers or close to range fronts and so on. So to take the leap forward, to get out into this even less areas where there's even less data, you've got to find something like groundwater chemistry, and that's the potential that not only can groundwater chemistry find additional gold, but it could still find high grade, close to the surface, oxidized, so lower, cost of development and production types of deposits. There's no reason to believe that we can't do exactly that. I fully believe that there's as much gold to be found. We just have to stay focused on how do we do it? How do we solve that problem?
Exactly.
Like putting a man on the moon or anything. And the NGE's story is a fun one to be involved in, and I think everybody should have a few bucks directed at being involved in that story. When you actually have some skin in the game, the whole story becomes much more interesting.
Yes, it does. and NGE.V is your stock symbol, and that's on the Toronto Exchange.
Yeah, the Toronto Exchange. We're also listed now in the U.S. That was part of what we wanted to do, was to lower the barrier to investors in the U.S. We have a large following of U.S. citizens, and they find it very difficult to often to make the investments in foreign countries, even in Canada. And so we're also listed on the OTCQX as NVDEF.
All right, and I'll include that in the information. And last thing, you mentioned that, or you alluded to how shale oil has really impacted the oil industry, and it seems like what you're doing could potentially have the same impact on the gold industry. And I think that once you bring that drill to the site and hit one of those spots, I mean, if Nevada is, as you stated, is one of the richest gold areas in the world, and it's produced, isn't it the top producing area in the world for gold for number of ounces?
Yes, at one time it surpassed South Africa.
Yeah, there you go.
Annual production. So it figures highly. If you're looking for gold, you spin the globe. One of the places you want to be is in the cluster of large gold deposits centered in Nevada, simply because it's such a small area. Your odds go up immediately.
Yeah.
Of being successful.
I mean, it's just incredible the potential that's right there at your fingertips, Wade.
Well, that's part of this. Yes, that's right. Now you talk about alluding to, we could have a similar impact on gold as that the discovery of shale oil has had on oil. I mean, it just means that it isn't over. A lot of people still think that it's just so hard to find new gold discoveries, and part of the problem here is that we, for the last decade, in spite of all this potential and all these guys talking and this optimism, the reality is that production has dropped every year in Nevada for probably a decade. And then if you dig deeper into those statistics, you'll see that one of the reasons production has dropped is because discoveries have fallen off. There's less gold being found, and that's in spite of the fact that more money than ever had been spent on looking for gold. And so, but it does take time. So I want people to understand that, don't expect this to be overnight. If you haven't bought shares and think that NGE is taken off, I'm sure that there'll be opportunity to do so. As far as I'm concerned, we're focused on a trajectory that is going to end in a discovery. And that's where I want to keep my focus.
Yep. I mean, your stock, I was looking at it earlier, and it's been performing quite well the past 3 or 4 months. And it still has a lot of growth potential just to get up to its last high of I think about 18 months ago or so, maybe a year ago. But
Well,
that's
yeah.
still in the very, very early stages. That's all of this is pre discovery. So, but I've taken up enough of your time. I'm sure you got rocks to tend to and water to take a look at. And we've been speaking with Mr. Wade Hodges of Nevada Exploration, and you can find all about Nevada Exploration at nevadaexploration.com. And Wade, I certainly appreciate all the time and all the knowledge today.
Well, thanks so much, Rory, for listening.
Well, we will have you back on in the not too distant future, and I'm really, really stoked about what's going on out there and what you're able to make happen.
Excellent. So am I.
All right, buddy. I will talk with you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.